In Nightmare Tenants Slum Landlords, we unearth stories of people whose homes spelt misery.
I know you're my landlord. Don't come back to my property.
From the renters at the mercy of slum landlords.
All the water's running down.
You're paying £90 a week to live here with no electrics, no heating.
To the landlords facing financial ruin from terrible tenants.
This is trashed.
He's a with this bloke.
In this episode,
Can I give you those?
we revisit some of the most extreme stories.
Do you know what? It's got cockroaches.
Seems like 17 people over 2 floors.
Provide habitable properties for other human beings. Jesus.
We find out what happened next.
We took the landlord to court. He got fined £9,000.
Good.
Yeah.
And the lessons learned by both landlords and tenants.
The money that's owed, we'll never see that again.
Get off.
As they went through hell
You are not stepping foot inside my house.
for their home.
Oh, the died in there.
Landlords dealing with tenants who won't pay their rent is stressful. When that tenant also becomes abusive, the nightmare really begins. Like many pensioners, Joan Chadwick was supplementing her pension by renting out another property. But a year after her tenant stopped paying her rent, their relationship went from bad to worse.
After I gave him his 3 months' notice, the text messages started. Very abusive, saying things about my husband.
Still owing over £2,000, the tenant was due to be evicted in 2 days' time, but he made a last-minute attempt to stay put. So Joan called in eviction specialist Chris Sharp for help.
We are going to Leeds County Court today. The tenant's trying to get the bailiff appointment to be cancelled, and that's the crux. They do it 9 times out of 10 simply to buy more time.
Joan's tenant Keith and his lawyer arrived at court. It was his second attempt to halt the eviction, and he was back to make exactly the same allegations as before.
Landlords can face multiple applications by tenants to buy more time. He has used the system to frustrate and thwart the landlord's right to possession.
But what was incredible about this case was that the tenant was once a family friend.
We've known him 10 years. We had a place in Mallorca, and he went with his family twice, completely free. I do feel really, really stressed and upset, and something I just don't want in my life.
Luckily for Joan, it took just 10 minutes for the judge to throw the case out.
Joan, I've got some great news. The bailiff will be going ahead in 2 days' time on Thursday. I'm delighted. Bye. It's just good that the line has now been drawn, and Joan will be getting her property back on Thursday. 2 days' time. Great result.
It looked like time was running out for Joan's tenant. But until he was out and the locks were changed, her nightmare was far from over.
There are always pros and cons to renting to somebody that you know, whether it be family or friends. But if it does go sour, as you saw with the case of Joan, it can become very sour indeed.
We've dealt with many eviction cases where landlords have been friendly with the tenants. Landlords don't act professionally, end up putting their guard down and actually don't take any references. And a lot of it is done on an emotional fact rather than a business and a financial fact.
Whether it's a friend that you've let in there who's paying, or whether it's a total stranger, They may be the nicest people in the world, but do your due diligence. Make sure that they've got everything themselves in place, proper tenant referencing and tenant checks, and if that rent isn't coming in, know your obligations, know your rights.
While some landlords like Joan can face financial difficulties because of nightmare tenants, there are others who make their tenants' life a misery. Peter Bazant is part of Peterborough Council's housing enforcement team. It's his job to bring private slum landlords to book and help out their tenants. In January 2015, he was checking in on a tenant who was living in appalling conditions.
Morning, Les.
Sorry about the house being a mess.
No, it's fine. We'll just look at your kitchen and your bathroom. You're concerned about your bathroom, is that all right?
Yeah. If you have a look in the bedroom, you'll see the difference.
Well, we'll have a look at the bathroom first, OK? OK, you don't have to look very hard. The damp and mould is pretty much everywhere to be seen. This is substantially worse.
Peter had already sent the landlord several notices asking him to make improvements, but it looked like nothing had been done.
This room's got worse. Mould everywhere. There's a musty smell that you get with mould.
I can't sleep in my own bedroom because of my ill health, asthmatic, because of the dampness. And that's why I sleep on the settee for the last 2 years.
Wholly unhealthy. I wouldn't want to live in here. No way. No. There is nothing to suggest the landlord's given any attention to anything required in these notices that we've served on him. We will now have to consider more serious action.
With conditions so bad, Les was desperate to get out of private rented housing and into a council flat. But like millions of others, he'd been on the waiting list for years.
Hopefully I'll be out of this place soon if the council can give me a property.
So far, not successful, yeah. Unfortunately, until that time, you're stuck here with this. And that's the point I'm going to be making with your landlord.
Thank you.
So watch the space, because things will happen soon. It's just not acceptable living conditions. Wherever he goes, he's got damp and mould, and it's particularly bad in that bedroom. For Les, who's already got poor health, this just makes it doubly worse.
In the summer of 2015, many landlords were feeling the heat from Lewisham's rogue landlord unit.
I've always had a problem with the term rogue landlord because I don't think it kind of does it justice, really.
At the time, they were investigating many hundreds of properties owned by dozens of private landlords in the borough.
We had 36 people up there, didn't we, living in the loft space and everything.
As London's housing crisis worsened, their caseload went off the chart. Tambitorai Uthayakanthan, otherwise known as Mr. Khan, was a landlord well known to Lewisham's rogue landlord unit.
Came across him years ago and he's got properties all over the place. There's that one up there, it's got a broken window. Everyone that we've gone into so far has been overcrowded, they've been unlicensed houses of market occupation, we're just rammed to the gunnels with people.
Micaiah Angus, an environmental health officer, was investigating Mr. Khan.
Yeah, it's my favourite person in the whole entire world.
She had warrants to enter 2 of his properties.
We're about to go out on several of his properties. We've still got outstanding warrants and we've got to serve the prohibition notices on them.
Ben?
A prohibition notice means the council deem a property unfit for human habitation.
This one?
Yeah, this one helps.
Despite having been asked to improve the two properties, Mr. Khan had failed to respond to any of the council's demands.
He's fully aware. His solicitor's been told. He's been told by myself in writing on more than one occasion, on more than one property, and he just will not engage.
Mr. Khan had a reputation for having a short fuse, so the police were riding shotgun on the visit, just in case.
He's there, but with the police with us, I'm not under any worry about it. Just push the police forward and run.
We're walking down there now. These are the warrants. These are the copies that can stay on site. But I will...
Some tenants were home and let the team into the building.
So you want to go in and have a look?
Yeah, let's go and have a look. Hello, is anybody up here?
Micaiah's first job was to hand out notices of prohibition.
Environmental health. Looked. There's missing handles. There's no protected route out. No fire detection.
Oh, no one could get out at all.
Is that the bathroom? Is it that what stinks? We've got somebody existing on this landing.
The guy's got someone living in here on a double bed. You can see the space isn't even big enough for his mattress to go out. He has to have it up like that. But we'll have a look in the basement. But there's loads more people living down here as well.
Smells rather high in here. Think of open sewers. Open sewers. Backed up. It's not friendly, but it's not safe. And if you're taller than me, and I'm only 5'3", don't bother trying to use this. All right, can I get out now, please? Oh. Oh, there's a smell of gas, Ben. It stinks. And you know what? It's got cockroaches.
Oh, yeah, that's, yeah.
There's cockroaches, egg cases. All right, now to post this up and get out.
Micaiah put up the prohibition notices announcing that the building would be prohibited from use in 28 days' time and the tenants would need to find new homes.
Thank you.
There was no sign of the elusive Mr. Khan.
Come on, let's do the next one.
The rogue landlord unit moved on to the building next door, where Mr. Khan was also the landlord. There was no response, so armed with a warrant, they broke in.
Hello, it's environmental health.
Micaiah spoke to the first tenant she met.
What's your name, please? What room do you live in?
Upstairs.
That side?
Yeah. That's where there's 3 to the room.
4.
That one 4, was it?
Mm-hmm. That's for your room.
This was the second of Mr. Khan's properties that were being prohibited from use, and Micaiah wanted to hand out the 28-day notices to each tenant.
Hello? Anyone in here?
It looked like there were 9 tenants squeezed into 3 dilapidated rooms.
All right. You're paying the landlord £1,000 every month to live here, and the least he could do is make sure that this place is safe for you to occupy. Yeah?
Leaving vulnerable tenants without a roof over their heads was the last thing the team wanted to do.
He's given us no alternative. 3 visits in less than a year. We find exactly the same, nothing's changed. You just order him to do it and he doesn't do it. So how many more get out of jail free cards do you want, frankly? And it's not like this is just 1 or 2 of his properties, just 1 or 2 we've been to.
If the landlord's basically just saying, I'm not working with you, forget anything you have to say, I don't want to deal with you, what option have I got?
Both properties had been served prohibition orders, which meant a total of 26 tenants had a month to find alternative accommodation.
Ben, check your shoes again.
Nothing.
Good. We don't want any cockroach cases in my car.
No, we don't, dear. Yeah.
We don't want them in the building.
Yes, dear.
And we don't want to take them home.
No, we don't, dear.
Good.
It's estimated that around 740,000 families in the English private rented sector are living in homes that present a severe threat to their health.
Fitness for human habitation is an odd one. If you think about it, just in the common sense of it, why shouldn't a property be fit for human habitation? Rogue landlords are Small in percentages, but large in number, and you only need a few to create absolute chaos.
Landlords take $5.6 billion in rent on homes that don't meet legal standards. Housing charity Shelter found 34% of private renters reporting property with damp or mould, 11% reporting electrical hazards, and about 1 in 10, almost 70,000 households, reported infestations of vermin or cockroaches in the past year. There are over 5 million private rental properties in the UK. Most are warm, safe places tenants can call home. But a few are not only substandard, they can pose a risk to a tenant's health. Tenants like Les Turner.
This is the only toilet in the house, well, in the flat. And as you can see, it's in the right state. Water's dripping all the time.
Les was on the waiting list for a council flat. For 2 years, he claimed his private rental had been plagued by damp and mould. Les has asthma and claimed the conditions made it worse.
The bed is mouldy, and as you can see, the walls are terrible. My quilts, my blankets, it smells of damp. Even the door has got mould on it. It's all been like this for 2 years.
Because his private landlord failed to sort out the problems, Peterborough Council began a criminal investigation.
Damp, mould, you name it.
Yeah, the works.
There's a lot there, pretty much damp and mould all the way through, if I remember rightly. His last chance to convince us that we shouldn't
pursue him further.
Take it any more serious than what it is already.
Housing officers Peter and Gareth have the powers to bring private landlords to book and called Les's landlord in to be interviewed under caution.
Morning. Come on through.
The housing team needed to find out why the landlord hadn't made a single improvement to the flat, despite the council's demands.
The offence is Section 30 of the Housing Act.
If the landlord didn't offer valid reasons, he could face a fine of up to £10,000.
We're here to give you your opportunity to put forward any reasons as to why you haven't complied with the improvement notices that were served on you.
After an hour, the interview was over.
His excuse is, tenant's in my way, can't get the work done. I always wanted to do the work. Well, so what? You're responsible as a landlord.
Yeah.
You know, you've got repairs and you haven't done them.
His reasons for not doing the exterior work were that it was too cold. He has done nothing, not one thing. The best excuse he can come up with is it was a bit chilly outside. And to my mind, that falls somewhere short of a reasonable excuse.
Because the landlord failed to convince the housing officers, they decided to prosecute him. But for Les, there was some good news.
The council have got me the new place. I was on a bidding list, and every time a place come up, I bid for it. I bid for that one, and they said I can have it. And I took it straight away. You don't know how much happy I am leaving this place. I'm really happy.
As a priority case, Les was given a council flat and could finally move in.
It's a new beginning for me. I've got to start again, and I'm looking forward to it. Oh, yes, I'm so happy with this. It is a lot better. Oh, well, you can smell the difference. Oh, yes. How clean is this? There's no damp, nothing. Oh, look. How happy can I be? Can't wait. I've not slept in a bed for 2 years. So tonight I'll be sleeping in a bed instead of the settee. I can't wait to sit in it. Oh, what a difference. So overjoyed.
One in 5 British homes is now owned by a private landlord. Many are pensioners who use the rent to top up their pensions, people like Joan Chadwick. After her tenant stopped paying her rent for over a year, Joan won a court order to evict him. But for eviction specialist Chris Sharp, it seemed the tenant was not going to go quietly.
Yeah. Here we are, 30 minutes before the bailiff turns up. He's still calling Joan, saying, I want more time, how can you live with yourself? I've got a daughter who's 16. I mean, people have to start to look in the mirror at some point and realise that nobody else is to blame other than their reflection.
Despite the tenant's best attempts, the eviction was going ahead. The locksmith and the bailiffs arrived.
Hi guys. Morning. Chris, hopefully you're going to go peacefully.
Yeah.
That's the best way, isn't it?
Oh, God, yes. Okay.
Have we indicated how much time he's going to need right now?
I think about 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
He is refusing to leave.
Yes.
I'll have no choice but to call the police.
He's now saying to the bailiffs he's not going. He's making other excuses to why he doesn't want to leave.
I'm the bailiff manager for the Leeds and Wakefield County Courts. I'm currently trying to enforce a warrant of possession. The occupant is refusing to leave the property, so I am requesting police assistance to enforce the warrant.
It's now approximately 12 o'clock noon. I think he's with his daughter. Go,
It seemed the threat of the police turning up did the trick. The tenant and his daughter finally left, without any of their possessions.
Martin, is that result? Are we able to go ahead now?
I'm just going to, what I'll do is, if I can just ring the police, and then I'll have a check around the house. It's reference log number 540.
This is how it's been left.
To call it off. The occupants who are refusing to leave have left of their own accord. We no longer need police support.
Hello?
You're clear, Luke?
Yeah, all clear.
Everything looks clear.
Yes.
Toothpaste, all the toiletries are still there. No effort to clear out.
With the tenant gone, landlord Joan finally felt able to return to her property.
Hi, Joan.
Thank you, thank you.
Went almost to plan. He stuck in a little bit, but the bailiffs were fantastic.
Good.
Let's go into the house.
Okay, thank you.
It's not damaged. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Mess can be tidied up, can't it?
Yes.
There's no structural damage that we've seen, but you can see they've left in a hurry because they've just left it as it is. They really weren't expecting, despite the bailiffs telling them they're coming round.
I know.
They will have a right to their gear.
Yes.
Arrange to have their stuff given back to them by arrangement and appointments only, but do not let them in. Because if you let them back in, you could be faced then with a trespass action if they do not then leave.
Thank
Right
you
then,
so
Joan?
much, Chris.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Joan was down £2,000 in unpaid rent, plus court fees, but still the nightmare wasn't over.
How you cannot pay your rent, I mean, is ridiculous. I would love to not pay our mortgage, Well, I don't think we'd be staying there very long, and likewise everyone else in the real world. So this has took 10 months, 2 visits to courts, huge expense. So yeah, a bit of a nightmare really, but we'll manage, we'll get it done.
In Lewisham, the council's rogue landlord team were inspecting another slum property belonging to the landlord they had been investigating for over a year, Mr. Uthayakanthan, or Mr. Khan as he's known. The flat above a restaurant had already been declared unfit for human habitation.
Definitely occupied.
The team had already placed a prohibition order on the building.
This whole thing has been shut down. There shouldn't be anyone living in it at all. Oh, it's a lot of damp in here, isn't it? Smell the damp.
Because of the squalid living conditions and safety hazards, the building was prohibited from use.
Still not attached to the wall.
But it appeared that no renovations had been carried out.
There's a strong smell of gas in this room for a start, which I noticed. The gas boiler is in the room with no ventilation. No, there's no window in here. This is why we closed it. There's someone living in here. When they say that there's been no one in here since we closed it down, but that loaf of bread is only 2 weeks old.
If the people living here were tenants paying rent to Mr. Khan, that would be a serious breach of the prohibition order.
And the key piece of evidence that you have to bear in mind, 2 fresh potatoes haven't gone to seed yet. What sort of skullduggery is going on here? Right, we're done.
Although the team had been investigating several of his houses of multiple occupancy, they had never actually met Mr. Khan.
Don't upset me.
But by chance, outside the property, they came across someone who might have been the elusive landlord, Mr. Khan.
There's nobody living there. Are you the owner then? I'm managing the property.
Right.
I'm here.
It was a chance to ask him some questions.
Send the letter.
Who are you? I don't know who you are.
The letter you're sending me, I'm their cousin. Okay?
You're who?
You're from Miller Development.
Mikhail wanted to try and establish if this was Mr. Uthayakanthan or Mr. Khan as he is known.
So what's your name?
Do you have a problem with me? You want to call the police? I say to you, Udaya Khan then. I say, Udaya Khan then. You understand?
We just
What
asked,
is your problem?
sir, we're just asking you your name.
I said to you my name. Idiot. I told you.
All right then, fine. Let me go to the office and I'm sending him straight over to you.
Yeah. Go. Open the door.
Sir.
No, listen. Open the door. She got a problem with me.
Sir, she's gone.
No, come back. You African don't know the law. I know the law.
Mr. Khan.
You.
Whoa.
Of course.
Calm down.
Listen, don't come back to my property.
Whoa.
Go back to Africa.
Mick, walk away. Richard, get away.
You.
Yeah, look.
Go back to Africa and learn law.
Okay, look.
Listen.
The abusive language caught the attention of a passerby.
Why do you say go back to Africa?
Listen, I'm not talking to you, my friend. Listen, the way she's talking to me.
I'm talking to you.
Listen, I'm talking
to you.
No, I'm talking
Don't
to
say
you.
that.
Listen,
Do you hear that?
Listen, the
Did
problem.
you hear?
Listen, what is your problem?
What? Do you want that?
I'm not talking to you.
I'll tell
If you say that again,
Mick, stay there.
Do you hear what I said?
Because the way she's abusing me.
I know business. You say that again. I heard what you said. I heard what you said.
Yeah, sir. Because the way she's abusing me.
What? Do you want me to punch up in your car? I heard what you said.
Yeah.
If you say that again, then you'll find out. You'll find out. All right.
Listen.
Right, look.
Always come in here and make it.
Let's calm down.
No, listen.
She asked you your name.
No, listen.
She asked you your name.
No,
that was
she
it.
know my name. I told her. She keep asking me my name. What is the problem? Tell her don't come back to my property.
Okay. Another day, another dollar, another argument.
The police were called to the scene and took witness statements. The man did turn out to be the landlord, Mr. Khan, responsible for the slum properties then under investigation. He was cautioned by the police for racial abuse and threatening violence.
Telling me to go back to Africa. Good job. You've been better off telling me to go back to Islington. That's where I'm from.
Mr. Khan was now very much on the team's radar.
Because of his level of non-compliance, he's made it onto our rogue landlord list, and he is in our top 10.
Having failed to make adequate improvements to the 3 properties that had been prohibited from use, and with his tenants just weeks away from becoming homeless, Lewisham's rogue landlord unit were looking to prosecute Mr. Khan. In response to the allegations made against him, Mr. Khan claimed that on many occasions it was his tenants who were unlawfully subletting the properties he managed, and often they didn't report disrepair to him. He claimed there were no tenants at the Spice Grove property. They were in fact squatters. He is not racist, but was under considerable personal stress at the time. He does not claim to be an ideal property manager, but is taking steps to improve, and he has since handed over management of many of the properties to someone else. After months of extensive investigation by Lewisham Council, Mr. Khan was finally charged with failing to comply with council orders. He was found guilty and fined over £7,000.
The council took him to court for a number of issues, including overcrowding, unlicensing, and the property conditions. But it's ongoing, it's a long case because there are so many properties that he's actually got. And there are too many rogue landlords out there who think that desperate conditions are just a tax you pay for having no choice.
A week after landlord Joan Chadwick's nightmare tenant was evicted, she finally had some time to reflect.
The hardest aspect is the emotional drain that it takes. It sort of knocks the stuffing out of me when people don't behave as I would regard as normally.
Although Joan got her property back, her tenant left without any of his belongings, and she had to pay to have them cleared out. He was due to collect his stuff at 9 a.m, but once again, things weren't going quite as planned.
I think it's probably best we wait for a bit longer, and in the hope that he comes in, gets his stuff and just leaves you.
By almost 2 o'clock, there was still no sign of the tenant.
OK, we'll wait. Thank you. Cheers. Bye. It's now 1:45 in the afternoon, some 4 or 5 hours after they should have been here.
But just as Chris was about to give up hope,
I think they might be here now.
The removal guys arrived.
This is the Aladdin's Cave. You've got all this gear going into that Luton van.
Some gloves in van.
And finally, the tenant showed up.
Why are you recording me? Why are you recording me?
They're coming back on the property now, but we've got no right to.
Chris needed to make sure they didn't go back into the property. It's not unknown for evicted tenants to claim squatters' rights.
It's a broken one.
Yeah.
Just leave it by the bins.
Don't, under any circumstances. How desperate they are to be sitting, they can't go back in. We've got instructions today to allow them into the garage and clear the garage into the van.
Can I just have a word over here with you?
Yeah, certainly.
Legally bound to tell you that if there is anything missing or stolen, my solicitor, that charges will be brought against you.
That's entirely your prerogative, absolutely.
Joan's cleaner was at the property to oversee things.
What?
And got caught in the crossfire.
It's still on me now. I want to go now.
Oh, kicking off on there.
Yeah, get out,
Are you all right? Don't sit in the car. They were all right, I'll shout at you, weren't they? Not very nice. Don't rise to it. Just people kick out at this point, don't they? They've realised they can't do anything about it.
Finally, the belongings were driven off, and it was the end of the road for Joan's tenant. Despite the court ruling, tenant Keith disputed the fact he owed Joan any rent and made a complaint about damaged and missing items. Joan's experience was a nightmare. But tax changes for landlords could spell the end of the buy-to-let dream for many others. With interest rates at rock bottom, many have put their money in rental properties rather than pensions or savings accounts. But what do the new rules really mean?
Government has now introduced new tax laws which are now tapering off your right to offset mortgage interest against rental income.
The impact can be is that smaller landlords with smaller portfolios could actually be pushed up into a higher tax bracket of over £100,000, when in fact they're not really earning that money because of course they're having to pay a mortgage and that can't be offset.
Starting from 2017, more than 100,000 landlords could move into a higher tax bracket once all their rental income is added. This will mean paying more tax and for some could trigger the removal of their child benefit.
Previously, landlords could claim 10% wear and tear against the state of the property. Now they can only claim actually what they've done.
From April 2016, buy-to-let landlords and people buying second homes will have to pay more in stamp duty.
It was announced that any person buying a second property will now have to pay an extra 3% stamp duty.
3% on top of what already will be a rather large figure on stamp duty may be the difference between winning in the business or losing.
However, homeowners will be able to receive as much as £7,500 in rent from lodgers without having to pay tax, compared with the current rent-a-room limit of £4,250. It's been a year since pensioner Joan Chadwick got her nightmare tenant out. After the stressful ordeal and losing so much money, she's made the big decision to sell the house.
The whole experience, the cost of it all in the end, just want to get rid of it.
With the property cleaned up and ready to sell, Joan's returning for one last look.
I mean, it's unrecognisable now. It's clean, it's tidy. It was just full of rubbish. It hadn't damaged anything, but everything was dirty. And the garden was in a mess. Everything was in a mess. It all looks tidy now, but in here was just massive stains on the carpet. We didn't know what they were. There's no stains now.
Even after being evicted from the house, Joan hadn't heard the last from her ex-tenant.
After he went, he then sent a list. It did go to Chris of all the things that I'd supposedly stolen. Well, I mean, it was just a joke. And the police came asking me, did anyone go in the house before me? Well, I could read him a long list of people. Chris, his assistant, my husband, the carpet man, my cleaner. I think there was about 8 people had been in here before I came in. So they said, it's just rubbish. And it is rubbish. You've just got to not let it bother you because people can say anything they want.
Upstairs, things were no better.
The bathroom was probably the worst of all. I have to say, this was filthy. But it took a lot of cleaning.
The house may be sorted, but what about the outstanding rent?
Just think his life just fell to pieces a little bit. And there's no joy in making it worse. as far as the money that's owed and spent on it, you will never see that again. You might as well just forget it. You might as well just forget it. And the last thing you want, if you went back to court and you got awarded £1 a week, that person is in your life for a long time. And then they don't pay, you're chasing them up. What is the point? You just make yourself miserable. You just move on.
Joan completed on the house sale soon after filming finished. It's now a year since we last caught up with Les Turner, and after an extensive investigation by Peterborough Council, Les's ex-landlord has been prosecuted for the mouldy, damp conditions Les was forced to live in.
Court heard the case in our favour, and the landlord got fined £4,500 per notice, plus council costs as well. So something in the region of £10,000 all told. We'd much rather that landlords would cooperate with us and do the work without us being involved. But that's not the real world.
Peter heads over to Les's with some rare good news. But unfortunately, it's not always the case.
It's about being humane about things, isn't it? And about putting people in substandard housing conditions that can have an effect on people, on their health. I mean, I've been to some places where you wipe your feet when you go out.
Hello, Pete.
Mr. Turner. Can I come in?
Yes, mate.
Oh, good. So, how's things?
I feel so much better in myself. As you saw the last place, it was a state.
Yeah, certainly was.
It was.
Well, we took the landlord to court and got a successful prosecution. He got fined £9,000 and council costs as well.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I'm pleased he got a fine, because that might teach him the next time.
Yeah.
Because he shouldn't treat people like that.
No.
Not when he's getting good money.
He looks a lot better as well, doesn't he?
I see you then and see you now. I can see
a difference.
A different guy.
Oh, different, different. I feel a lot better.
Yeah, there's been a peace of
in
mind.
myself, I feel more confident.
Yeah.
I get up and walk out, well, in my little garden there, but I enjoy it. The sun shines in the afternoon. Does me. That's my life. Thank you for doing that with me.
You're welcome, mate.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If it wasn't for Pete, I think I would have been dead by now. I think I would have died in there. That's how I felt. But now, you can see me.